There are places you remember as a child, places that stay with you no matter how much time passes. For me, it was the old bus stop near my elementary school, a faded wooden bench under a jacaranda tree. That's where I met him. I was about 8 years old, still wearing oversized uniforms and carrying a backpack that seemed heavier than me. The bus stop was my daily waiting spot, the place where I counted cars and imagined stories about strangers passing by. But one afternoon, I wasn't alone. He sat at the far end of the bench, wearing a red hoodie too big for his small frame. His feet barely touched the ground. His face was thin, his eyes sharp, scanning everything and everyone. I don't know what made me notice him that day, but I did. "Hey," I said, swinging my legs. He looked at me but didn't respond. I opened my bag and pulled out a half-eaten packet of chips from lunch. "You want some?" He hesitated. His eyes darted toward the road as if checking for something. Then, without a word, he reached out and grabbed the packet. He ate fast, almost desperately, like he hadn't eaten in days. "What's your name?" I asked. He wiped his mouth with his sleeve. "Josh." "I'm Zach. Do you go to school around here?" He shook his head. "Which school do you go to?" He shrugged. "Nowhere." That made no sense. Every kid I knew went to school. But something about him made me not ask again. He sat beside me, quiet but present, like a shadow. That was the first day I saw him. It wouldn't be the last. The days passed, and Josh became a familiar sight at the bus stop. He was always in that red hoodie, always alone. He never carried a school bag, never looked like he was waiting for anyone. It was as if he just existed there, in that small space between the road and the jacaranda tree. I started bringing extra snacks. Sometimes it was a packet of biscuits or a fruit my mother packed for me. He never asked, but he always took them, his sharp eyes watching everything around us. "Do you live near here?" I asked him one day. He hesitated, then nodded. "Where?" He just pointed vaguely down the street. Something about the way he answered made me feel like he was lying, but I didn't push. We had fallen into an easy routine, meeting, talking a little, sitting in silence. It felt like an unspoken friendship. One afternoon, he showed up later than usual. His lip was swollen, a dark bruise forming under his left eye. "What happened?" I asked, my stomach twisting at the sight. He glanced away. "Nothing." "That's not nothing, Josh. Did someone hit you?" He didn't answer. Instead, he shifted uncomfortably and looked at the road. That was when I noticed it. A green sedan parked a little distance away. The engine was running, but no one had stepped out. "Is that your car?" I asked. He tensed. No, but he was lying. I could feel it. And for the first time, I wondered if Josh was really just a kid looking for a friend, or if something darker was happening behind the scenes. The green sedan became a regular sight. I would notice it parked near the school, its engine idling, the driver hidden behind tinted windows. Sometimes Josh would glance at it and fidget, his fingers gripping the sleeves of his hoodie. One afternoon, I finally saw her. The woman inside the car. She had sharp cheekbones and dark sunglasses that hid her eyes. Her skin was smooth, her lips painted a deep red. This time she got out of the car and was approaching us. Josh's hand tightened on my wrist. He was begging me not to leave. "Who is she?" I asked. Josh lowered his head. "No one." "She's waiting for you, isn't she?" He flinched, but didn't answer. Something was wrong. I felt it in my bones. The way he avoided my eyes, the way his hands trembled slightly whenever that car appeared. My chest tightened. Was he scared to go home? Was that woman his mother? Was she abusive towards him? I wanted to ask more, but before I could, my dad arrived to pick me. "I have to go," I said, shouldering my backpack. "Will you be here tomorrow?" Josh hesitated, then gave a small nod. Josh let my hand go. The woman stiffened. After a long moment, she dragged Josh into the car and drove off. I left, but my mind stayed with him. That night, as I lay in bed, I thought about the woman in the green car. Who was she? Why was she always near the school? And why was Josh so afraid? I never saw him again. Not long after, my family moved. For years, I regretted not helping him. I could only hope that he was safe. Years later in college, I was digging through old police case bulletins for a research project. Scanning the pages, my eyes stopped on a headline. Woman arrested for child abduction attempts. My stomach dropped. A grainy photo accompanied the article. The woman from the green car. I kept reading. Authorities had uncovered a kidnapping operation that had been active for months. The woman would park near schools, waiting for her chance. Beneath the article was another image, a blurry face in a red hoodie. Josh. I knew something had happened to him. However, it was the caption that shocked me to the bone. He wasn't a victim. The bulletin described Josh as her accomplice, a man with dwarfism tasked with luring children in. Memories of him flashed in my mind, his sharp eyes, his reluctance to answer questions, the way he always looked over his shoulder. It all made sense now. He was never a lost boy in need of a friend. He was the trap. I felt sick. I had shared my food with him, confided in him. I had almost followed him, almost let myself be led away. For years, I had wondered if I should have done more to help him. Now I realized the truth. I hadn't failed to save Josh. I had saved myself.